Hello, welcome to the 2020 Owl Prowl, sponsored by Tall Pines Conservancy. My name is Marty Thompson. I come today to you from Wanakia Wildlife Rehabilitation and Education Center. Wanakia has two missions. One is to rescue, rehabilitate, and release ill, injured, orphaned wildlife. And we also do education promotions. And we will be showing you some of our educational ambassadors this evening, as well as hearing from our field expert, Joe, from Laudato Si.
Hi, my name is Joe Meyer. I'm Executive Director of a nonprofit called Laudato Si Project. We work to integrate faith and a love for ecology together. And we partner with great organizations like Tall Pines Conservancy to do education programs and stewardship projects. And we're here today in some tall pines to learn about owls and to call some of our owls and to learn some of the habits and ways of life of our native owls.
Our first guest this evening is a notorious enemy of our owls, and sometimes when you're listening for an owl, you're going to listen for this bird, not necessarily the hoo-hoo-hoo, but the natural sound of the notorious enemy of our owls, and that is our American crow. CJ is an American crow. She did come to us with a fractured wrist, so she has limited flight, so she will stay with us here at Wanakia Wildlife. But crows are notorious enemies of owls and hawks. As the crows go to settle down at night and the owls start getting ready to be active, they may intertwine, and that is where you're going to hear the caw-caw-caw of the crow. This 1-pound bird will chase away a 5-pound great horned owl, not using its brawn, but using its brains. It will call on every other crow in the neighborhood, and they will dive bomb that owl and chase it out of their territory. So sometimes when we're looking for owls, we need to listen for the crows, and they will lead you to an owl or a stray hawk as the day starts to close. Our next guest is our second smallest owl in Wisconsin. These are our eastern screech owl. Rosie is a red phase eastern screech owl. Many people see her and think she's a baby, but she is not. She is a full-grown female. In the bird of prey world, the females are a little bit bigger than the males. Rosie came to us with an eye injury, and we did put her through her tests, and she could not find live food, so she will stay with us. Oftentimes, people will say, we heard a screech owl in our yard, and sometimes it's the baby great horns calling for their parents to say, feed me, feed me. Screech owls did get their name because when they are threatened, big owls will pick on little owls, they will make a scream or a screech. And the sound Rosie's making right now is a sound of familiarity. She would use that with a mate. She would use that with her children as she is hunting and looking for them and heading out to feed and coming back to bring them food. The really cool thing about screech owls is they come in two colors or two morphs. Rosie is a red phase. Akine is a little gray phase. He also has an eye injury. His eye injury is a little more easy to see. He was hit by a car and everything on that side was injured, and he cannot find live food, so he stays with us. We've had him a good 12 to 13 years, so he's our grandpa. And he is a little bit smaller than Rosie. We don't hear him vocalize near as much, but those beautiful feathers are made to blend in perfectly with the bark of a tree. So they will be sitting in a tree and you won't even be able to tell that they are there. They'll be watching you run around your backyard, run around tall pines. They blend perfectly in with the bark. Now he will blend in with a tree with grayer bark, while Rosie will blend in better with a tree with redder bark. So nature is just so awesome in its coloration of its little owls. And the size of those talons will tell you the size of the food that he can eat. So he'll eat small mice, voles, and small insects.
So here we are in a nice little pocket of white cedar trees. And this is one of the favorite places for one of our smallest owls, eastern screech owls, to hang out. So they'll sit real tight against these white cedars and then looking for prey as it scurries along. So we're going to go ahead and do a screech owl call. Screech owls have a very atypical owl call. It's not a hooting call at all. So I'm using a program called All About Birds, and you can look it up, allaboutbirds.org, and they have all sorts of ID information and and great calls that you can help ID things that you might be hearing. So here's the eastern screech owl.
Another bird that is made to blend in with the bark of trees is our largest owl in Wisconsin, and that is our great horned owl. Yes, he has those tufts on top of his head. He is laying his down, and they are not their ears. They are tufts to help them blend that big, huge, round head into their surroundings. Their ears are actually holes on the side of their head, one here and one a little bit lower, and they can actually hear in 3D. Their facial discs and the feathers on their face help channel in those sound waves. Merlin came to us not with any broken bones, but the one wing is paralyzed. He did tear chest muscles and ligaments and tendons, so he cannot use the one wing, so he cannot fly. Great horns are your hoot owl, your hoo, 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 hoo. 5 for the guys, 7 for the girls. And those talons will pick up something as small as a mouse or vole, and they will go up to the size of skunk and small opossum as well.
So here we are in a white pine plantation, which is a favorite roosting spot for great horned owls. Great horned owls are one of our largest owls and one of the more common ones that you'll see in suburban areas as well. But the roosting site of the great horned owl is usually chosen here because it's a little more protected from the wind and the elements, and even birds like crows, which tend to pester great horned owls. So they're one of our earliest nesting birds. They're going to be nesting as early as late January and early February, and that really is timed so that when the rodent population spikes in spring and their chicks are the hungriest, they'll have the most food available. So we're just going to call for the great horned owl here, and the great horned owl gives a "who's awake? Me too" hooting call. So we're going to give it a shot and see if we get any responses.
Our medium-sized owl is our barred owl, B-A-R-R-E-D, and they are common in our area even though they're a little lesser known. And Odin, our little male, does have a few neurologic issues. He came kind of with 4 strikes against him. He did fall out of the nest as a young bird, and when he gets nervous, his head twitch gets a little bit more. He also has a shoulder injury, and he also had injuries to his feet when he was on the ground. So our little guy had quite the issues when he came. Our female is now sitting on eggs, so we don't usually use her as an ambassador when she is nesting. So Odin gets a chance to show everyone how cool our little barred owls are. And their talons are a little smaller. They are considered a medium-sized owl, so he's going to be hunting a little bit smaller prey. But they are around here, especially in our area.
Here we are in a nice mature woodland, and this is one of the favorite hunting grounds of another one of our large owls, the barred owl. Barred owls have really deep, dark black eyes and will hunt in these mature forests. And their call almost sounds a little bit like a dog barking. And the moniker for it is, "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?"
Our last guest is our smallest owl we have in Wisconsin. However, as of May 2nd, you would not find the little Saw-whet owl down here in our part of the state. They migrate down in the winter and they head up back north to breed in the summer. And our little Saw-whet owl has a lot of the same coloration as our last owl, our barred owl. And that is because they live in a different type of tree. They live in more of the evergreen trees, so they don't necessarily look like bark like our screech owls and our great horns. They make kind of a single tone, and we will hear that. They will also make a small little trill when they recognize people. They are around in the winter if you were doing an owl prowl in the winter, or if you're doing an owl prowl when you head up to the northern part of our state, you just might see our smallest little owl, our saw-whet owls. And the way they got their names, according to the legend, is people thought that their call sounded like someone whetting or sharpening a saw, hence the name Saw-whet Owl. Well, thank you for joining us for our virtual owl prowl, and thank you for visiting with some of our wild neighbors. Please keep in touch with all of us at Wanakia Wildlife, at Laudato Si, and at Tall Pines for future events. Have a great evening.